one thing we always start off the Future is Human conversation with is stripping it back to being a human. And what better way than to ask you how you're feeling today and how you're arriving on the call?
Okay, well, right now I'm feeling grounded. Yes, I came into this conversation as someone, who has been through the system of injustice and now works to change it. So I look at myself as being here with purpose for a purpose.
Mm, thank you. And is there anything particular that you like to do to stay grounded? Um, I know we
Well,
like in lots of the conversations we have, we talk about just like what it is to be human and when do you feel most human. So I was just wondered if you would mind sharing a little bit about that.
well, really, what I like to do to stay grounded is to stay focused, stay connected to my faith, um, my hope, my resilience, the things that I know that makes me strong, and the things that I know that keeps me going. In order to stay grounded, I also stay connected to the people that I know keep me grounded. Without my support system, I just consider myself just like nothing. It's those relationships, those connections to people that, uplift me. Those are the things that keep me focused and centered, grounded in who I am.
And would you say that those people have been there all the time, or is that something that you've kind of had to work at? As someone myself, I'm just asking out of curiosity more than anything, because I think that sometimes finding that group of people that help us stay grounded can sometimes be a full-time job in itself.
Definitely. These are people that, it's just crazy to say it, but these are my sisters that a lot of them are through relationship that I developed while I was incarcerated. Out of my closer network of family, which consists of my mother, my daughter, and my sister, my biological sister. These are what I call my just given sisters. They're the ones that know me better than anything else. They understand me. They understand, the ins and outs because we've been through our hardest times together. So these are relationships that are most precious to me because they were forged out of pain, out of the hardest and most difficult times of my life. And they were there through all of that. They didn't bat an eye when it was necessary to be there for me and vice versa. So yeah, those are the relationships that I found most dear because they're earned relationships.
Love that.
Amazing. And can you tell us, Toni, a bit about your organization and the work that you do?
Okay, well, my organization is the International Network of Formerly Incarcerated Women, INFIW, we call it. I am the international organizer there, and we are in over 30 countries on six continents. We were founded and are led by formerly incarcerated women. Um, we are working tirelessly to end the incarceration of women and girls. We support women when they come home, and our most ardent job and duty is to change the narratives that are consistently about us. Um, so in this aspect, I just don't speak about being a woman of lived experience. I am a woman of lived experience surrounded by other women of powerful women, I must say, of lived experience. And I'm also newly a member of the PRI group of global experts by experience, which is composed of about, I think there are around 16 or 17 of us currently from about that many countries as well.
Yeah, I was at the PRI's event last week and met some of your colleagues on the Expert by Experience group. And it's, a really, again, another powerful group
Yes.
of people. And what made you join that network as well? What was the incentive for you to join that network?
Just basically the same thing in regards to being a part of the international network. I believe in global solidarity, and I also believe in the power of women's voices. And oftentimes, our voices are less heard in these forums, women with lived experience. So I felt that it was important to be a part of a unit that is given the opportunity often, well, hopefully often, to speak about our experiences directly from us. So I feel that that's necessary to be able to have a voice from a position of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And we asked you, Toni, to bring along an object that represented something, a moment of humanness in your work. Could you share with us what you've brought along and describe why you've brought that along to share with us?
Okay, well, today I brought along my faithful, battered, tried and true journal. For me, my journal represents my voice. It's where I can openly express myself without boundaries, where I'm not silenced. Um, Being a formerly incarcerated woman, there were times when my voice didn't matter or wasn't heard. But now I do have the opportunity to change that. So now I use it to tell the truth. And usually that starts within my journal. That's where I explore different things. It's like my sounding board. So, when I lose focus and I have doubts about things, I just reflect through the pages of my journal. And that usually gets me back on track to just see where I've come from, the journeys, the roads that I've traveled. So, yeah, it's my tried and true object of choice.
Wow. When did you start the journal or the journaling
Um,
process?
I started during my incarceration. There have been times that I've waned, there are times just like anything else, but yeah, it's been an ongoing off and on process for years. But more so, within the latter years, it's become consistent because it's needed. It's needed. But I think it's important to have something to reflect on. Like I said, when, there are those periods that there are the doubts and there are the fears and, they're just like, what is this about? The questions, pages, they help me to reflect on the positives as well as the negatives and, what my higher power has brought me through. So yes, it's a very important part of my life.
Great. And do you follow a particular structure with your journaling?
No, I don't think it's necessary to have a structure. I mean, sometimes things are too rigid and structural, and then that's
Yeah.
when I think you lose focus. Especially as Jacob, as you can attest to being, coming from the justice, you being incarcerated, like structure. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just want to get away from that. We want to just be free in all senses. Yeah. So
Right.
no, I don't follow a structure.
And so you don't like so you just writing it whenever you feel the need to writing it.
Yes, just like, it's not, oh, I wake up in the morning and I have to journal. No, I can just get off of this call and just like, what? There was something within the call that inspired me. So I'll jot that down and, I'll reflect on that.
No, that's great. And so drawing on all your experience and what environments and relationships would you say best supported you to do what your journal does for you, in terms of being like a human, and especially in relation to your time when you were incarcerated, like, were there particular moments or experiences in prison where you didn't feel like you were in that strict structured regime and you felt human?
Um, can you rephrase that just a little bit?
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fine.
kind of need to, yeah, that's
So drawing on all your experiences, you said that your journal is something that keeps you human, keeps you grounded. Were there any experiences or moments or programs or interventions where you felt connected, where you felt most human, even when you were incarcerated?
Okay, but during the incarceration period, the moments when I felt most human, as like I mentioned before, were the moments that I had with my sisters there, gathering with them at certain times. During my incarceration, I went through quite a bit of different things. My daughter was diagnosed with cancer when I was there at 12 years old. So I needed that community support there to uplift me because I was broken. And then several years after that, because of the medical neglect there, I was seriously ill and I had to have like brain surgery while I was there. Spent 9 days in the hospital and then was just sent back to a compound of 1,200 individuals, 1,200 women. So, I had to have that community support, and my sisters, without a doubt, they rallied, they helped me, they took me to the shower. They did everything that you could think would be
Mm,
humanly possible to make me feel safe, to make me feel loved. And, during that time, like that was what made humanity real to me. And then after being able to join a network such as INFIW and to be surrounded by women such as the ones that were incarcerated with me, powerful women with stories, women that have been through devastation but have picked up themselves and turned their lives around, and is what we like to say is turned their pain into power.
mm.
So, during my life, that's something that I can honestly say that I'm fortunate to be able to connect with such powerful women, not just to do for me and pour into me, but that I can also then do the same thing for them when it's necessary. Yeah, so that's a given.
Yeah. And I love these words that you're using, this community, safe, feeling
Yes,
loved, turning
definitely.
pain into power,
Yes.
feeling connected and having that solidarity, both, whilst in custody and then beyond outside, finding a network and a safe place to feel loved and have that solidarity. Um, but we all know that prisons, you know, are don't always provide much of that.
Mhm.
But if we had a magic wand and we wanted to provide more of that, and we wanted to create an environment that could do more of that, what would it look like? What would be happening as opposed to how it works now?
Well, if we had a magic wand that would be able to do that, what I would say is that we would be, I think that we should create spaces that people can, let me see. I think we should create spaces that people can be themselves, you
Mm,
know, s- just like we mentioned before about structure and rigidity. I think
mm,
we need to, especially for people like myself, formerly incarcerated people, we need to create a space where they can feel safe and they can be listened to and they don't have to prove their worth or feel like they need to earn respect, or they're not judged from the things that from their past that they cannot change, but a
yeah,
place where they can move forward and a place where they can have mutual respect. It's not that they feel like you consistently have to give respect. We give respect because respect is mutual no matter what, to everyone. We shouldn't have to feel like, God forbid, we have to consistently try to pay for something that society deems that we have to pay for. Like, in itself, incarceration is a price. Isn't that the punishment that's given to us? Once they're
Mm-hmm.
like, you're sentenced to, like myself, I was originally sentenced to 27 years. And by the grace of God, I was from the first, what is it, for first chance, I can't remember the exact name of it now, but it was during the Obama term. I was given like a 9.5 year reduction on my sentence, which at the time was one of the longest. It was like one of the first and the longest. So I was fortunate in that way. But when that time is handed down to you and you're stripped away from your family, you're stripped away from your community, and you go within those confines and you're punished. So his and hence there the price that you pay. So why should you have to continuously pay for that beyond that? Why can't you, when you walk out those gates, walk out those doors or whatever, say, okay, I'm a member of society now, you know? I've paid my price. I mean, I'm just similar to you are, and I should feel safe. I should have all the same things that you're afforded. Why can't I have that? So, saying all that to say, I think it's important to have a space where we can feel seen, heard, and feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's no reason why prison shouldn't feel safe.
No, not at all either, because at the same time, within those confines, there are people that are being paid to do that to keep us safe. There are
Mm-hmm.
people that's their job to keep us safe. So within those confines, we should be afforded the same things like humane mental health care, humane medical care. We should, be afforded the things that make us the better part of who we are even though we are already stripped away from our families and community. So yes, in prisons we should have that safe place as well. As we know, within the United States, that is the prison that I was at, Dublin in California, that wasn't afforded to a lot of those women. That safety was stripped away from them.
And did you was there like much in that prison, that time you spent in prison, in terms of like education and other ways in which you could kind of learn more about yourself and learn new skills or anything like that?
Yes, like I think it's in any environment, it is also we also have to take that responsibility as well to make it what we deem it to be. So during those during those years, there were programs, there were volunteers that came in that offered programs. There were college courses that were available. There were also, unfortunate for myself, because during my time, I was an INS hold was put on me, so there were programs that I didn't have access to. But for the basic things, yes, there were programs that I was able to be involved in. One of my biggest, like, I would say, it was also a distraction, but it was also my help. It was a lot of help to me as well with my mind, with my mental state, was working out. We had the
Mm.
weight, we had the exercise, and so I tend to have put a lot into effort into that to keep myself as much as possible, in the physical health, especially with an illness, as well as my mental state. So yes,
Yeah.
there were programs and we had to work. That was mandatory. So, and for me, working wasn't an issue because it kept me busy.
Mm.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more, Tony, about the work that you're doing at the moment and how you're kind of developing sort of pockets of the future, so things that you would like to see, more mainstreamed in the future happening now. So yeah, something that you're doing in your work with the network that you were talking about, that's like a pocket of the future, a more human pocket of the future.
Well, within our network, there are, we have working groups. We have 4 working groups, which are economic empowerment, um, education and training, advocacy and campaign, and also self-care. So developing and working across those group is just like something it's really endearing, because there's so many countries, but within each, region and countries, there's strength. In some countries, you have, women that are doing economical movements and changes there. And then you have, in other regions that are leading in advocacy and campaigns that are actually creating policies that, are changing laws. And so we exchange those things. It's a constant exchange. And I think that's a big part of the network growing in global solidarity, because at this point and in these times, it's very important. So getting involved in those different avenues, we're currently creating a campaign in regards to the war on drugs, and we're actively involved in that now. We also completed a series of interviews with different women within the network that we used for a truth out article. But those recordings, we're going to turn them into maybe like a podcast. And also, we're going to transcribe a lot of those stories into a book series as well. So, there are a lot of things that we're doing across the network. We're constantly moving, we're constantly growing. Within the self-care, this week and next week, we're doing what is it? An emotional freedom technique um, series with the women. Whereas, it's a structured two session uh, course. And then within that, if they decide after the 2 sessions, then they can go actually out and do a 6 weeks with the program that's offered out of the network. So there's just, like I said, there are constant, things that we're doing. We're actively in our fundraising efforts right now, because as we know, across everything, funding is horrible. So we are, working strenuously at getting funding. You mentioned, Porticus at the beginning. They actually co-hosted one of our fundraising webinar as well. So
Amazing. And I love that self-care is one of those strands that you've got all the advocacy work, and it leads on to a question we'll be coming back to a little bit later, about how you look after yourself as well, and with the network. So that's fantastic that's one of the strands of work that you've got. And I just want to ask, sort of, from what you've seen, obviously you're covering such a broad range of countries in your network. What do you think it will take to move forward to a more human justice system? And what would be a good first step for you? What do you think that the next step should be?
um really, and this is just one of the things that I think is just first and foremost, we have to switch who we consider as the experts. Um, People with lived experience need to be present in more of these forums, in more of these conversations. We need to have a part in the system that they're building for us without us. We have been through the problems, so we know the solutions. So in order for, this to work, we really have to switch the focus in the mind state of who we consider experts in this forum.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're doing that, exactly with, bringing that network together and collecting, and having so many different voices of people, of women with lived experience from all those different countries coming together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those, those individuals, they have their stories to tell. They have their, they have their own solution for their own regions. It cannot just be a one size fit all, because in every region is different. It's different. And, where in, certain countries there might be political struggle. In other countries, there are economical struggles. So they cannot be a one size fit all from just a centered perspective. It has to be vast.
Absolutely.
And that leads to quite nicely into the next question, which is, what do you think are the like the most important barriers to implementing some of these things? So what do you think gets in the way of a more human justice system, and what needs to change?
Okay, well, the first one, I'm like this, is actually the punishment mindset. People tend to believe that harm should be met with more harm, which creates a cycle that solves nothing. It just really, to me, it perpetuates the problem. The most valuable people, which are often women, well, the most vulnerable people, rather, which are often the women and children, they're the victims of these cycles. Another is stigma. As I spoke about earlier, we continue to be punished long after the punishment has ended. The past just consistently follow us as a blemish or a stain. It just seems to never go away. And the third is where the funds are invested. The funds tend to be invested, to me, in the wrong things. They're invested in prisons and punishment and creating more and in these environments that it's not conducive to any of this. It's just perpetuating the cycle instead of being put into more things like healing, you know like Jacob mentioned, restorative justice. Things like that serves a purpose, re-entry, and finding real solutions.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
And you've spoken a little bit about this, Toni, but about working across different countries and why you think it's so important to work across different countries. What have you gained personally from meeting other women from lots of different countries?
Well, as I mentioned before, different countries, you learn different things. I think working across different countries, you don't just see the same pattern. Uh, they're in one region, they're economically strengthened, and they have community based approaches in another region. In on one region, they have they're working towards ardent campaigns for policy changing. So these are just like, some of the things that I think just working across country exposed me to. It exposed me to just different mindset, different ways of doing things, different community actions, um, different culture, different ways of different approaches. So it's working with so many different regions and women. It opens my mind. It opens my mind to know that even though we're in the same struggle, and the crazy thing is that if you sometimes you just close your eyes and you don't even mention a country, you do see like the stories are the same. that's something that I have learned, like, oh my God. And I think that's something that just got me so much more, um, just even drew me in more and more into the network, is just like, they're telling the women in Africa, they're telling my story. The women in South America, they're telling my story. The women in Europe, they're telling my story. So, that's the common thread that I think that binds us together, is that even though we're in different places, we all have the same stories. Yeah.
I
And I
love that.
think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And with those stories, I've learned, sometimes the hard way in the past over the years, is that we have to take care of those stories as well.
Yes.
And
Cherish them. We do. We
cherish.
do. Yeah, we do. We do.
Um, and I just wanted to ask you, kind of, from other people in your network, or people that are re-entering society, even those people who are doing advocacy and campaigning and going public with those stories. What kind of, first of all, what keeps you safe and grounded? I know you mentioned the journal earlier, but then whether you think there's anything else we can learn about how other people cherish their stories, and if they're feeling alone and isolated, because this work can feel quite disjointed at times, and sometimes we're all in different parts of the world doing our own thing, and then it can be quite, can take its toll. So what's your thoughts on cherishing our stories, both as individuals and as people working in this space across the globe?
Yes, as I mentioned before, I think at the onset of the conversation, is that my faith is just the center of it's my core, it's my being. I tend to feel deeply, and I'm a caring person, and sometimes that can be it can be too much. So when there are those times, as far as from what works for me, when I go through those times, I need to kind of just be intentional and take a step back. Um, I need to be able to refocus, recenter myself, ground myself, and just kind of ask myself, in certain important questions. One thing I've learned, and I hear it all the time, and I love this saying, is that you cannot pour into a broken, or, a fractured vessel. So I have to be whole. I have to, be mended in order for things to be continuously pouring to me, so I can pour into others. And also, as I mentioned before, it's my circle, my network of sisters. Like, they're it, they
Yeah.
encourage me. They encourage me, they teach me, they pour into me, and they love me. And I return the same thing to them. So that's my self-care. My self-care is to be intentional about me, be intentional about my mental health, and also um to receive the love and care from my sisters and my community, my network, and to give that back to them as well when it's necessary for them to pour into them.
Yeah, it's that
Thank you.
reciprocal relationship, that
Yes.
at different times you're going to have different needs at different times, but
Yes.
it's, having that trusted solidarity means that you've got those people around you when you need them, and vice versa.
Exactly. Exactly. It's necessary. It has to be, you can't, it has to be a give and take. It's not always 100% about you. It has to be, it has to be a give and take type of situation.
I love that. I love that. And just one final question for you, Toni. For the people watching or listening to this interview, do you have any recommendations if people are interested in what we've been talking about, interested in a more human justice system? Have you got any suggestions of things that people should read or should listen to or should watch that will help them? What things have you read and listened to and watched that have inspired you?
Well, For my recommendation, what I always say is you have to start with the voices that comes from experience. For a read, of course, I want to recommend you read books like my series, the Land of No Pity series, book series, which is written by moi. And they're about the urban culture of South Central Los Angeles. Their stories like these are not often told from firsthand perspective. They're often sensationalized. We know this, and they're not accurately told. So work like my work, they're written by, people, they're written from a perspective of lived experience, and it's actual account. So I would recommend my book series, Land of No Pity. Also, I would also recommend that you watch the documentary Commuted, which is a story of justice advocate Daniel Metz. She's also on the PRI experts as well. Danielle, she was sentenced to 3 life sentences, plus not just 3 life sentences, plus 20 years as a first-time person involved with justice. She never even had a speeding ticket before that. And it gives a first look at what the system does to women, and being stripped away from their families and their children. So yeah, that's a Commuted is the one that I'd also recommend. And I'd also recommend that you listen to podcasts, the Free Heart podcast, which it also raised awareness of incarcerated women and girls, and from a perspective of criminalized women. And as I mentioned before, INFIW is working on a book series and developing a podcast as well. So those are my recommendations. And overall, I'd always say, it's always important to pay attention to whose voices are missing from these platforms and forums.
Absolutely. Well, definitely, promote those books. And yeah, that's incredible. Your own book series, not just one book, but a whole series.
Yes,
That's
and I'm
amazing.
working on the 3rd book now. It's coming along.
Wow. You got some catching up, Jacob. You're going to
I know. I got.
I need to get started.
Give me motivation. And just to remind people, anyone listening, it is Land of No Pity, and where can they find you or your work?
There's the website, www.shakirpublishing.com, and also they're on Amazon, etc., all the major platforms.
Perfect.
Mm.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in workshop 2.
Yes, I look
and
forward to
continue in the conversation.
Yes.
Thank you so
And
much
we
for your
hope that
time
the
today.
listeners, we hope the listeners have enjoyed this conversation, that they can join us for workshop 2 and be part of this exploration as to what a future human justice system might look like. And we look forward to paving the way.
Yes, and I look forward to being a part of that. I think it's important work that you're doing, and I, thank you for the opportunity to have this platform to express myself, and just to be candid and honest about, the way that I see humanity and the way that I see human justice.
Yeah, well, you spoke very eloquently to say that you're an introvert. I often think the introverts are sometimes the best speakers. So,
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Toni. Really, really lovely to meet you.
Yes, it's great meeting you both as well.